Welcome to another lesson from the listening section. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the best strategy for form completion type questions. So let's get started. In form completion questions, you're given a form, and a form in this, as you can see in this case, may include a diagram. But what you'll be doing is you'll be filling in each question with words that you hear in the recording. And these can be words and numbers. And that's why it's so important to begin, as we do with every type of listening question, by reading and listening and then marking the instructions. In each case, this is the most important step so that you know exactly what you need to accomplish with this task. So first of all, you'll read the instructions and underline them. And the reason we underline the instructions is simply to make sure and have implanted in our brain that we have seen and read the instructions and we know the exact criteria for answering the questions so that there's no second guessing. You won't get halfway through a set of questions and then have to go back and check how many words can I use, or can I use a word and a number together? So it's really important just to read them carefully, underline them, and make sure that you've completed this important step. And then in the listening section, you also have instructions that you listen to. And these instructions are so important because it gives you the context and the situation for the recording so that you know exactly what you're listening to. And for example, this is a section 1 question, so they would tell you that this is going to be a conversation between two people to make some kind of arrangements. And in this case of the question we're looking at in this lesson, it's to arrange shipping a package. So make sure you listen carefully, read and underline the instructions as your first step for this listening question. And then you're going to want to predict what you're going to be listening for. So this can be as simple as looking at each question and deciding what type of question or what kind of answer will you be listening for, and just making a note beside the question or in the column beside on the page, and just make sure you know exactly what type of answer you're listening for so that when you hear it, you'll write it down immediately and move on to the next question. So for example, in number 1, you're listening for a surname. And in number 2, it's going to be the name of a college. And just one thing to be aware of, whenever you're given a proper name to write in, it will be spelt for you. So you don't have to worry about spelling when it comes to proper names, because these proper names will be spelled out individually by letter for you. In the case of other words, spelling is something that you'll have to know, and you are marked on the spelling, and if something is spelled incorrect, you won't get your answer. So in question number 3, for example, you'll just write down postal code, or in number 4 and 5, numbers of measurement. And you'll notice in one label there, when it comes to the length, it says 1.5 meters. You will hear centimeters or meters when you hear a measurement, and it's only necessary to put in the abbreviation. And even if you don't put in the unit of measurement and just the number, you still will receive your score. Questions 6 and 7, you know you're going to be listening for items which are nouns. And then in the last question, you're listening for a price. So just by quickly going through the questions in the time you're given, and be aware of the types of answers that you're listening for, and make a note, and then prepare to listen for the recording. One thing that's very important, and again, I mentioned that this question that we're using as an example is from section 1. In the first set of questions in section 1, in every IELTS exam, you'll be given an example. And it only happens once, and it's only for the first set of questions in the first section of the listening test. So be aware that you are going to hear an example. One of the dangers is that you're feeling a little anxious, you want to get going, and you don't take the time to sit back and relax and just listen for the example and know that it is an example. I've seen some candidates who begin writing too soon and begin trying to fill in answers even before the example is finished because they're just so anxious to get going. So this is a good time if you're doing the paper test, just put your pencil down, relax. It's going to be a long 2.5 hours as you go through this IELTS exam, and this is your first question of the day. So take a breath, relax, listen to the example, and at the end of the example, you'll always hear the words, "And now we shall begin." And that's when you take your pencil and you're ready to start answering questions. So don't get too anxious. Don't start trying to fill in answers before the example is over. This is the time for you to just prepare your mind and get ready for the test that you're about to undertake. And then it's time to listen and answer the questions. I just want to give you a tip about the whole listening section and especially these types of questions. The key is to keep moving forward. And I want to give you a couple of tips when it comes to answering here. If you miss a question, don't worry. Remember, your goal in the listening section is to get as many correct as possible out of 40. So if you happen to miss the answer for a question, don't panic. Just prepare for the next one. You have to stop worrying about the question you missed, or else it may distract you and you'll end up missing the next question too. And then it starts to accumulate and you begin to miss 2 or 3 questions in a row. So if you miss a question, it's not a cause for worry. Remember, it's just to get as many questions correct as possible. So if you miss one, keep moving and make sure you don't miss the next question. Another tip about moving forward is when you're given the instructions to look at questions, in this case, it would be look at questions 1 to 8. Don't look beyond those questions. Just prepare for those questions. But as soon as you've written in the answer to number 8, jump ahead immediately, even if the recording isn't finished, because you don't need to hear any more answers for that section. Move ahead immediately and start looking at the next set of questions. And this may give you some extra time to predict and prepare for the next set of questions you're going to be listening for. And then you'll be given time to prepare for the next set of questions. So as you go, as you keep moving forward, you can actually build up more time to look at the questions and predict and prepare for what you're going to hear. And one more tip that I'd like to add to this is at the end of a section, at the end of a section of questions, they will give you time to check your answers. So what do you do in this case? Again, you keep moving forward. Don't use the time to check your answers. There's nothing you can really check because you're not going to hear the answer again, the recording again, sorry. So just keep moving forward and use the extra time to prepare. And again, you're accumulating preparation time as you go through the listening section. The other reason that you don't want to check your answers at this point is the only possible thing you could check them for is spelling. But you'll have plenty of time to do that when you're given the 10 minutes after the listening test is over. You're given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. And this is the time to check your spelling. So I wish you all the best as you prepare for the IELTS exam, and I look forward to giving you another lesson in the future.